All right. Welcome to this week's episode of Market Stats here in Austin, Texas. There is so much going on with our economy right now. Mark and I are going to cover a ton of ground very quickly today, and stick with us all the way to the end because we've got a few surprises coming at you. We are not only going to talk about the housing market, we are going to talk about so many other considerations when it comes time to our economy, because right now it's not just about being able to sleep in a house, it's about affording a mortgage and so much more. Mark Koretsky from Movement Mortgage.
Look at that.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's so good to be back.
It is so good to be back. So let's start as we always do, which is the housing market in Austin, Texas. We continue to hover around that 9,900, just below 10,000 mark of homes for sale in Austin. And that's been for a good solid month, maybe even 5 weeks now that we've been sort of hovering, give or take a couple hundred homes, but we're just barely under that mark.
I mean, it's not a bad place to be. In reality, I think a lot of buyers would like to see more.
I would agree with you, and this really is a great opportunity for buyers right now to collect their thoughts and really understand what is happening in the market. So, with that in mind, Mark, talk to us about rates right now. We've hit an all-time market high.
We're
What do you have
just
to say
off
about that?
market highs. We finally got off market highs. There's reason to believe there's light at the end of the tunnel, but there are definitely obstacles in the way. A lot of this has to do with what the Fed is doing. A lot of it has to do with what the Fed is not doing. And a lot of it has to do with what's going on abroad, which none of us have any control over, right? And so my biggest concern, and really the economic biggest concern, is really what's going on now with gas prices and oil prices and what's coming down the pike. Gas prices trickle down into every single industry and every part of our lives. It's not just what we're paying at the gas station. It's an ingredient into the cost of everything, right? It takes oil and energy in general to produce anything that we make. And so right now, we've been enjoying a nice reduction in gas prices over the last couple of weeks, last couple of months. And the concern is that coming to an end? There's been a lot of things that have actually helped us in bringing down gas prices. Part of that, which is not going to come without any consequences, but it's been tapping into our emergency reserves that we have on a federal level. That is coming to an end at the end of October, I'm pretty sure. We've got big challenges going on with Europe and Russia and what's going on with the gas pipeline. Europe is going to be implementing a lot of different sanctions in December against Russia. That's going to have to do specifically with energy. And so energy costs, at the end of the day, they rule the world, they run the world. And we in housing very much see the good, the bad, the ugly when it comes to it. And so the concern right now is we're enjoying the nice reduction right now, and it's still much higher than it has been over the last 24 months.
Yep.
Could they go higher after the election? It looks like that's very likely.
Absolutely. And that is a conversation that I am having as well when it pertains to the market. Last week, you and I touched upon do you want to have a bigger footprint? Moving to Austin, you have an opportunity that exists that doesn't exist in many other states, which is your money goes a lot further here for the purchase of a house than it does in many markets. Although we should take a look at the numbers that you and I were talking about a little bit earlier off camera, which has to do with affordability and city affordability. But let's, for argument's sake, talk about the fact that people are coming here from markets that are often much more expensive. You can get more space. And the question I ask myself, just like I have my buyers ask, is how much space do I want to afford from a mortgage perspective, right? In terms of what is my monthly net, and what are the other considerations when it comes time to taxes, when it comes time to air conditioning. Listen, if you're not from Austin, Texas, here's a newsflash. We live in air conditioning probably 8-9 months a year.
And when we
Let's say
don't,
9, right?
the heat on when we don't.
And when we don't, exactly. So we don't have a whole lot of in between because we get so used to the fact that it's 90 degrees and it all of a sudden feels cooler here than it has in a really long time, and which I'm so thankful for. Our evenings have been cooling down and our mornings
Yeah.
finally feel like fall. Oh my gosh, I've been dreaming of this for like 8 months. And so from an affordability standpoint, the question becomes is not only how much mortgage are you affording, how much taxes are you affording, but truly the cost of air conditioning, watering. We water our lawns here big time. Most houses of clients that I work with come with some form of a built-in system. So we, automatically put those sprinklers on in the wee hours of the morning to keep our grass from singeing during the day and giving it an opportunity to really soak into the ground. And so, yes, those gas prices, from the gas we put in the car to the gas we bring into our house, hugely important. Mark, agree with you 1,000%.
It's also, I mean, it's going to change the way that we approach really where we live and where we work, right?
Mhm.
If during COVID somebody wasn't working and now they're getting pushed back into office life and now they've got to drive 45 minutes or an hour,
Yep.
the higher gas prices go, the more that they're going to be shelling out, the less their affordability is going to be there overall, right? And so it's definitely going to change a lot of the way that everybody goes about their life. And that is going to determine where do they want to live and how do they want to live.
Absolutely. It's funny, I just had a girlfriend in town this weekend. She was in from Canada and she was like, I didn't understand why, so many people wanted to move here. She's like, Jen, I get it now. I get it. Like, it's so pretty and it's hilly and it's green. And I didn't know about the lakes. And she was like going on and on. And meanwhile, I was touring her around the city and I was showing her areas that I was like, I'm going to show you like kind of not opposite ends of the city, but I'm going to take you to like areas that are being gentrified, and then I'm going to take you a little ways away, and I'm going to take you to areas that our highest cost per square foot for dirt here in Austin is in an area called Terrytown. That's not including the downtown and condos, obviously, but just for homes in the proper downtown area. And I was driving her around, and we toured downtown. We went all over the place, and we drove for like 2 hours. And I'm not like thinking twice about it. It's like I'm touring around a friend that I have, like, I've known her for 35 years, which is a long time, obviously. And so I'm just driving around. She's like, Jen, can I like fill up your tank? Can I whatever? I'm like, no, don't be silly. Like, it's fine, it's good. But I'd still, cognitively speaking, the price of driving for 2 hours straight, or the price, until I looked at my tank, I was like, oh wow, like we really trek some miles. But you don't think about that. And if we do have the ability to work from home, it's one consideration. But to your point, if you are now going back to the office, you do need to factor that in.
Absolutely. And I mean, I see actually NAR talking about it,
Yeah.
the gas prices and the way that you guys drive in real estate. I always joke, like, you couldn't pay me 9% to be a realtor, but like now it's going to be 10 or 11 because
Yeah.
it's no joke.
It's no, it's very real. And also, then you pay to park downtown, and then you pay for, picking up if you go, to go out to a restaurant, you're paying for like all of those things that, start to add. But yeah, it's we were talking last week, the thing I meant to bring up is we were talking about like affordability from the size of the property. And when you start looking at, condo life, is what does affordable look like in condo life, and what does affordable look like in house life? Because if you're in a condo, your insurance is, inside your four walls, and it's what is the price of insuring a place if, God forbid, something happened and say there's a fire and it got demolished. You're only paying for the interior of your space. So let's say your condo is 1.5, for argument's sake, two bedroom, two bath, downtown at a decent building, one of our nicer buildings. You don't have to insure the condo for 1.5. You can probably insure the condo for 7 or 800, because that is the true cost of rebuilding the interior of that box. Well, now all of a sudden your insurance goes down. Now, what are your costs to heat that, say 1,400 or 1,500 square feet? versus a house, which is 4,000 square feet. So you're now heating or cooling 4 times the amount of space. You're insured. I mean, it's just like, it's a real lifestyle consideration now more than ever.
And I think that's going to be really continuing into the near future, right?
Yeah.
Like my generation, the millennials, like we know what we want, and like we're going to get it whether we like it or not, right?
Yeah.
And so I think it's going to have trickle down effects for everybody. But at the
Yeah.
end of the day, it's everybody has their own preferred lifestyle, right?
Mhm.
Like me having grown up in the city and living in the city most of my life, you would have to pay me a lot more to live in the city at this point. Others that have actually not experienced that, or they're moving in from kind of the middle parts of the country, or maybe they are just city people, like that's what they want. And so they want that. They really, at the end of the day, if they don't know it already, they're going to find out there's a premium to live in the city, to have all of the amenities right nearby, to have all of the options that a lot of people go to the city to get. And so I think a lot of it comes down to, what is your lifestyle? Because
Yeah.
for me and for a lot of Texans, it's, I want to have some space. I want to be able to
Mhm.
breathe. I want to be able to actually enjoy my neighborhood and not have to have all of these noises in the background whenever I'm living, right? And so it really just depends on what is your preferred lifestyle. The
Yeah.
beauty of Texas is you can find it. If you know what you want, you can find it.
Oh, heck yeah. And then I've got folks on the opposite end looking for land and ranches. And
Mhm.
so it's this like wide space that I'm working in for from literally one end of the consideration for a smaller footprint to how big of a footprint can I live off the grid? What's solar? We're going to have a car that needs, that gets gas, and then we're going to have a car that's electric. And that way, if gas goes crazy, we've got the electric, and if there's a problem with the electric, we've got a tank filled with gas that we can run, off, and then we've got the solar for the house. So it's all of those. And so when you look at affordability in the city, I was looking at some numbers earlier, and we are steady. Austin is really steady. So when we look at affordability in and around Austin, 3,141 houses, so 3,141 of the almost 10,000 are between 350 and 499.9. So under 500. So almost a third. Like we're really close.
That's
Then we're basically tied for between 500 and 750. We're at 3,043. So I think it bodes really well that between the 350 and this to 750, we've got 6184. So 60% of all of our homes and properties available for sale right now in and around Austin are between 350 and 750.
that's a good place to be. I can tell you that. And it sounds like it's actually getting better.
That's affordability. Like to me, we were talking again like earlier, what is affordability? And that really is up to the individual. And it is something that Mark and I take very seriously when we're talking with our clients on what does living your best life really look like, and not just paying for a house.
Listen, I mean, I would love to make a homeowner out of everybody, but let's be honest, it's not the right time for everybody.
Yep.
For a lot of people, it is the right time.
Hmm.
But when it comes down to it, there's a big difference between you coming to me and saying, "Hey, I want to buy a house." And the reality is you're coming to me in order for me to put you in debt to get that house.
Yeah.
And so, what is it that you want when it comes to affordability? I much prefer that line of questioning and that conversation, as opposed to a lot of the way that people come to me, which is trying to figure out what is the maximum for a loan that they can get. Listen, we today in the mortgage lending environment and just the housing industry, we're in a much better place than 2007, 2008. The mortgages we're doing, they're much more difficult to qualify for. But at the end of the day, with all of the regulation in place, we're still in a position to where we can make people house broke every single day. And so I did not get into this business to put people into worse off situations. I don't want any of my clients to be house broke. And so I always say, let's not talk about what's the maximum you can get approved for. Let's talk about what you actually afford, because that's a personal number, and that's a number that's going to be different for everybody, even if they make the same amount of income, right? And so we always start with monthly affordability. From there, we want to get this payment and get the house with the lowest cost. And I would say the lowest out of pocket, because once you put your money into the house, really the only way you can get out of it is selling. And so right now, a lot of young buyers, a lot of the older young professionals, the 27 to 45, they're thinking generational wealth, and they're thinking, we're buying this place, but we're not ever getting rid of it, which has its own implications, right, for inventory later. But at the same time, that monthly affordability is going to be different today than it is yesterday, or was yesterday, and it's going to be different than it will be tomorrow. And so let's figure out what monthly affordability means for you.
Absolutely. And it's funny when you talk about that in inventory, and we've touched on it before, but how many of the institutional buyers have bought up so much of the properties that will never come back on the market. And so for those of you who are watching and listening, I often get asked the question whether or not we think Austin housing prices are going to tank, crash, insert clickbaity word here. But the reality is we've got about anywhere between 125 and 140 people moving here daily. We do not have enough houses available. There are less and less houses available, just based on like what Mark talked about as a strategy for people who are buying and holding and looking to pass it down to other family members. There are companies that have bought up homes that will never be for sale again. And builders are now building less homes for sale to individuals than they are building to rent. So with that in mind, folks, Austin housing prices, you may see a dip, but by no means do not for a second think that we are going to be part of any type of quote unquote crash, because it's not coming here.
It's not. And in reality, I think across the board, not just in Austin, but all of Texas and really the entire country, like we are seeing a cost of living increase. And like it feels like it's a concentrated effort to get us there. And so the affordability that we experienced during the COVID pandemic, I am just so happy for all of my clients that took advantage of it.
Yeah.
But for anybody that didn't, in reality, affordability has definitely become less affordable today than it has been, but the trend is going that way, and it's going to continue to. And so if homeownership is in your purview, like let's move up that timeline as long as we can do it safely and efficiently, because locking in affordability, that's not a guarantee down the line.
I love that. Okay, that's a great note to end on. Mark, we're going to keep it light and tight today. So for those who have tuned in, thank you so much for being here. Mark and I are here every single week, chopping it up about what is happening with the market here in Austin, Texas, as well as the bigger picture, because anyone can sell you a house. But what we're doing is we are trying to help you afford a lifestyle, whatever that looks like. If it's trips and cars and yachts, then awesome. We are all for it. And if it's something that is considering a smaller footprint and how much can we live in order to then go out and do some other things, that's great too, because really your life is yours and we are here to support you however you need. So with that in mind, my name is Jennifer S. Goodman, realtor here in Austin, Texas, with my fabulous co-host.
Happy to be here, Mark Koretsky, loan officer Mark, up here in Dallas, Texas with Movement Mortgage. Hey, give us a call. We'd love to help.
All right. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.